Hello, everyone. How are you this evening?
Howdy.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Good
Hello.
evening.
Hello there.
All right, so this is the first meeting of the Citizens Committee. It's technically a mayor's committee and not a committee of a public body. And I'm disclosing that up front because for purposes of public meeting law or public meeting rules and public meeting law, because this is not a committee of a public body, but rather a group of citizens that I've assembled in an advisory capacity, I'm able to have this meeting on Zoom as opposed to live and in person. Other committees that are council committees or council meetings themselves currently must be held live and in person, but we're not a decision-making body as much as we are to discuss and make recommendations, and the recommendations are generally going to me. So I wanted to put that out front so that we're clear as to why we're able to have this meeting on Zoom when council meetings currently and council committee meetings currently cannot be held on Zoom. Does anybody have any questions about that? Okay, well, welcome. I think one of the first things we want to do, since this is an organizational meeting, is we should go around and introduce ourselves and maybe say a couple of words each about why we're interested in this committee. I'll start. My name is Michael Dylan Brennan. I'm the mayor of the city of University Heights, and I was interested in starting the sustainability committee because I am committed to seeing the city commit more, fully to sustainable practices. I did last year, as mayor, sign off on the 30 by 30 pledge to reduce our carbon footprint by 30% by the year 2030. There are ways that we can do that, but we want them to be meaningful and not merely window dressing, but actually make real changes and make real progress. And there are lots of things that we can do to promote that, as a city and as a community. And that's not the only thing, obviously, that we can be doing. And part of why we're assembled here is to discuss things we can be doing as members of the community to promote sustainability and sustainable practices throughout the community. So that is why I think we're all here, and looking forward to hearing from each of you a little bit about yourself and why you're interested in being here. So I could say we could go around the room. Maybe I'll just call on people because that'll be easier. My screen probably looks different than your screen. I'm going to start with John Riel because he's right to my right on my screen. Hi, John.
The same place on my screen as well as yours. How about that? Yeah, my name is John Riel. I'm a retired computer geek. My last job was as the director of applications computing at John Carroll. I've been living in University Heights since 2004 or 2002, excuse me. This house since 2004. I'm always been interested in sustainability because I think it's like the only way we're going to keep the planet going is to work out a more sustainable lifestyle. That's about it.
Okay, great. Thank you, John. I'll then go to my left, Joshua Patton.
Hi there, I'm Joshua Patton, and I've been in University Heights 2 years now, but in the area for about 5 years. And yeah, we're interested in sustainability. I have an urban vertical farm on Canterbury Road, and just sort of interested in the, coming from the agriculture side of things and thinking about how agriculture currently contributes a huge amount of waste to the environment, and it's not sustainable. And so we wanted to get into something that was a little bit more local and into food security and that kind of thing. So that's where we are right now.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Josh. Chris Myrick.
Hi, my name is Chris Myrick, citizen of University Heights since 1984, October 1984. Also a retired computer geek. interested in seeing what we can do both as a city as well as individuals, because we only have this planet. So if we don't do something, we're leaving horrible things for our children and grandchildren.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Mandy Goodset.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mandy, and I'm a librarian actually at Cleveland State University. I just moved to University Heights this past July, but I've been in the area for, I want to say 7 years. And I'm excited to be part of this committee because I think this is such a huge issue. I've never been on a committee like this before, but I just feel so strongly about this issue. And I often hear people say, you know, that what needs to happen at the level of government or at the level of business. So I think that there's a lot of potential for this committee to have a big impact that a lot of residents in University Heights want to see.
Very good. Thank you, Mandy. Jeffrey Pearl.
Thank you, Mayor. Oh, am I being heard?
Yes, we can hear you, Jeff.
Oh, okay, that's fine. I wasn't sure. I have been interested in sustainability for quite a number of years. I'm a resident of University Heights since the 70s. Have lived here in 2 homes on Bushnell previously, and mostly where we are now on Lafayette. And I've been interested in sustainability, I would think most of my life, but in large part since college, and there was the first Earth Day. And I was bringing things way up to date without going into too much detail. I was very interested in seeing the mail from the mayor and the city on recycling, and that certainly is part of what we have to consider with sustainability. And you know, we talk about reuse, reduce, recycle, and I think that's all part of it. One of the things that we have done as of late to contribute is with a local company, Rust Belt Riders, and we have been doing drop-off at the Shaker Nature Center and also in South Euclid at Bexley Park. And I think that would be something that we should consider doing in University Heights, perhaps over at the Walt.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Jeffrey. I see E. Angleheart.
Good evening. Thank you for letting me speak. My name is Elizabeth and I live in University Heights. I've been here since '97 and I'm a transplant from San Francisco. I became interested in this committee because my main focus is on the micro ecosystems of lawns and gardens and wildlife habitats, backyard wildlife habitats. I have all of those. I look at sustainability within the garden. Now that's the micro ecosystem, but beyond that micro ecosystem is looking at the water and the runoff with the chemicals that so many people put on their lawns, the fertilizer and the pesticides. I've been doing a lot of research since I retired in this area. And what they do is they go down the gutters and they go into Lake Erie. And this is causing the harmful algae blooms. And people put more fertilizer on their lawns annually in the United States than crop farmers do out in the farming areas. They overdo it. They overdo it with pesticides. They overdo it with fertilizers. So what I do is when I walk my dog at 3:30, 4:30 in the morning, I look at all the gutters as I walk down the streets of University Heights. They're blocked with plastic bottles. They're blocked with garbage. I have seen weed companies who come and put chemicals on lawns on the same day that there's a big, rainfall. And that's all just going down into the gutter and going straight into Lake Erie. So my intention in being on the committee, aside from helping with all the other things of sustainability, which is a big, big topic, just covers many, many areas, is that we can help citizens of University Heights really understand what they do on their property goes into Lake Erie. And they need to think about how this affects our water system and our groundwater. So that's basically my main focus, but I'm also interested in recycling. I went to the recycling, the waste department gave a recycling workshop, and I went there. And because I'm the only one on my block who went there to that meeting, right before the first lockdown, my neighbors will text me pictures of bottles and things and ask me if they can recycle it. And I get that almost every 2 or 3 days. I get pictures of bottles and containers on my text of, can I recycle this or not? So that's really a major, major issue is recycling. So anyway, good to see you again.
Okay, you too. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Mhm.
Jim, is that Jim Outman?
Yes, it is. I don't know why I'm not on video. But yes, it is Jim Outman.
Hi, Jim. Would you like to introduce yourself and say a few words?
Sure. My name is Jim Outman. I was born on Earth. I've lived on several planets. This one seems like the best if it can be sustained. I come from a slightly different perspective, maybe from other people. I'm a troublemaker by profession. Once made a living at it by being a journalist. I think that really human beings are faced with an existential crisis, to coin a phrase. That was my phrase way back when. And I think that local government is our best, possibly only chance of making a difference. I think sustainability, in my view, covers a very broad range of subjects. Recycling is one, but I would also like to see us think about not generating the plastic to begin with. I think the whole issue of microplastics in the global system is of crisis proportions. I think that we also have a chance here to consider issues that are built into our society. Imagine really trying to live in the United States without a car. And that would include, an Uber car, if you will, but it is all so built in. I think we have to start somewhere. I think this committee is one place that we could start. I hope that we do not get bogged down into the local politics and, how much are these cans going to cost? I can tell you right now that Home Depot charges $150 for the 64-gallon recycling bins. Maybe we can get that price down. I want to see people go out and buy the bins. I don't really want to have the city council tell us we can't afford it. We can't afford not to. So hopefully, in addition to my rantings and ravings on Facebook, that I can contribute some ideas, and if nothing else, stir the pot, as someone once accused me of. End of rant for the moment.
All right. Well, thank you, Jim. When you said the thing about Earth, I was reminded of what is probably my favorite little Seinfeld type bit of humor. It dates me that I even would be able to quote Seinfeld, of course. But it's when George and Jerry are in California and they're lost and they're at a payphone, and George sees a passerby and says, "Excuse me, can you tell me where we are?" And he just says, "Earth," and keeps walking. Yeah, I always loved that. Fuming, it's not very helpful. But thank you for joining us here on Earth, Jim. Jacky.
Anyway, yeah.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Jacky, and I have been in University Heights since the mid-90s. I think, first of all, I'm just so excited to be with so many like-minded people. It's really exciting for me to hear all that. My first interaction with sustainability was in college. You know, it was kind of that Earth Day thing, but also I took a class called environmental science, and it was really interesting. And I took also a course with the waste management company. And so, you know, I became an ambassador for recycling. And it's really opened my eyes to the fact that most people do really want to do the right thing. And they want to be able to save our planet and to live in a sustainable way, but they just don't know how, or they don't have time to figure out how to do that. And so I would hope that this committee would be about helping people to be aware, number one, of the issues, and two, to be able to say, I can do something about this, and to be able to join either our committee or just to do the right thing with recycling and sustainability and all that. So again, I'm happy to be here, and I look forward to working with all of you.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Jackie. Michael
welcome.
Newbridge.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, Michael Benino Bridge here. I joined Mandy as probably one of the newest residents. I also moved here in July and started in July too. So really new to the Northeast Ohio. My personal interest in the sustainability committee, specific to University Heights, I think that, I think a lot of people have made like great comments on some of the issues that we'd like to focus on. My personal interest is focused on like sort of like land use and ways that we can reduce the auto-centric sort of lifestyle that it's kind of necessary in Northeast Ohio, and these are all planned choices that we've made.
Michael, we seem to have you seem to have frozen, at least for me. Can anybody else hear Michael?
Yeah.
Frozen.
Okay.
Technical infrastructure.
Oh, there we go. Michael, you froze up with
You
us.
dropped out.
Oh, I did. Oh, I'm so sorry.
You were talking about land use and auto-centric in Northeastern Ohio, and that's about where you froze up. So
Okay, well, I think if we're interested in sustainability, I think we all kind of notice that we have to live in our car. And I'm from Los Angeles, so I really do know what it's like to kind of, you have to use your car to get everywhere. But long story short, I'm really interested in land use and zoning that helps reduce that necessity, and specific to like protected bike lanes that sort of introduce alternative transportation for folks.
okay, thank you, Michael. Ginger Pomego.
Hi, yeah, and it's Pomego.
Pomego. Okay,
That's fine.
I tried to pronounce every vowel. Sorry.
That's fine. That's fine.
Pomego.
But anyway, so hi. Back in, I think 1990, there was something in the front page of the Sunday newspaper about an anniversary of Earth Day, and had all this information. But back then, the big thing was the hole in the ozone layer, but they did talk about global warming. And so my friends and I started, if you can believe it, Euclid High School's first environmental group. But the main thing that we ended up doing was recycling. That's because it was the easiest thing to do. I mean, really, doing things with a much larger impact and longer term, usually takes more work. But I regret that I didn't stay involved in environmental issues, in college. But I'm really into naturalist stuff. I go bird watching. I'm very interested in, I'm very terrified by the insect apocalypse. If you don't know about that, look it up. But if you remember when you were a kid, you'd go on a long drive, you'd come back and the car was completely covered in dead insects. And it doesn't happen so much anymore. You might get one that you have to use the windshield wipers on, and it's a huge, huge problem because that's the base of the entire food chain or food web. But I share Ms. Anglehart's concerns about, I think we could all use our yards. I mean, we've lost so much green space and natural habitat, but if you took everybody's lawns and did something better with them and combined it, we'd have meadows, we'd have, more insects for more birds, we'd have more habitat for birds to live in. But yeah, I definitely share climate anxiety. I feel like if I don't do anything, then how can I complain? I just feel like I'm letting down all of humanity if I don't try to do something. So that's me.
Okay, well, thank you, Ginger. We also have some city officials here as well, member of administration, 2 members of council. So I'd like to, recognize them and have them say a few words too, if they're willing. We'll start with administration. We've got Mike Cook here, who is our communications and civic engagement coordinator. Mike?
I'm here. Thank you. Yeah, part of my job was to help promote the creation of this committee. So I like to think I did a halfway decent job since there's a good amount of people here. And going forward, whatever this committee comes up with, people have questions, I'll try to convey that to the public and just promote and encourage and publicize the good work this committee will do going forward.
Okay, thank you, Mike. And then turning to our council members, we have a new council member who ran on numerous issues, including sustainability issues. So I'll start with him. Brian.
Hello, my name's Brian King, and I am really encouraged by seeing a lot of the people I talked to while I was running for council here. So one of the things I was really interested in is helping bring sustainability in at a local level. It's a big issue. The state, the federal government has to do something, but we have some control here at the local level for education, for making changes to zoning, like have already been mentioned. One of the big things I'm involved with is the cycling community as well, alternative forms of transportation. I'm on the board of Bike Cleveland. So interested in seeing how we can break away a bit from that auto-centric lifestyle that's been mentioned by a few people. Just this evening, I rode over to Quintana's just across the border in Cleveland Heights on my bike and got my hair cut and came back. So like to make it more comfortable for other people to feel they don't have to use their car to get everywhere. So I'm encouraged to see all of you here, and I'm looking forward to seeing what this committee can do. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Councilperson King. And then finally, our Vice Mayor, Michelle Weiss, is here. Michelle?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I think it's, I'm excited to meet all of you and hear everybody's ideas. And I think it's very promising for the city going forward. And it'll be great to see what this committee comes up with in terms of ideating and putting forward some practical solutions.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Vice Mayor Weiss. I think the next thing we might like to do is, we covered some of this perhaps in introductions, but perhaps we can go around and talk about expectations and, with an eye towards some agenda setting. I think probably what we'd like to do is there are a lot of different things that were mentioned, but, now might be a good time to, discuss what it is that we'd like to see come out of this committee. And then from there, we can maybe discuss some agenda items and prioritize them and see what we want to work on. How does that sound? Okay.
Do you want specifics or general?
Well, I think expectations can be somewhat general, but if you have a specific expectation in mind, I think that would be a welcome thing to bring up. And then we'll transition from that into agenda setting and coming up with things that we'd like to work on. How does that sound? Okay, very good. Who would like to start? Expectations.
Well, I'm encouraged to hear other people talk about trying to reduce our dependence on the automobile. I think that's a big thing. One of the reasons I moved to University Heights was I got a job at John Carroll, and I decided I wanted to live where I could walk to work. So for 14 years, I walked to work every day, except every once in a while I'd have to drive because I had an appointment or something. But and I too am a bicyclist, like Brian. So I think, yeah, there's a lot of stuff we could do there to emphasize that University Heights is a fairly walkable community compared to most. I mean, where I live, I can walk to the library, I can walk to Whole Foods, I can walk to O'Reilly's if I need a beer. So it's a lot of good stuff here in University Heights we can build on.
Okay, very good.
Well,
Who
maybe
else?
something,
Go ahead, Chris.
oh,
Yes.
maybe something very simple we could do is install rain barrels on city buildings. And also switch to cleaner, more sustainable cleaning agents in cleaning city buildings.
Okay, those are good ideas. Okay, thank you, Chris. Expectations. What else would people like to add? Elizabeth. I'll go with Elizabeth first.
Somebody else was speaking.
Oh,
Can I
okay.
start, or does somebody want to finish?
Oh,
speaking?
Elizabeth, go ahead, and then we'll go to
Okay.
Jim.
This is more, I think this is more overarching, not specific, but we're all self-selecting coming to this committee. So, and we kind of resonate with each other, and that's a wonderful thing. But most of the people who live in University Heights are not aware of any of the things we've talked about tonight. It's not on their radar, sometimes understandably because of stress, everything else. It's just not, it's not something that they're thinking about, is sustainability. So my idea for this committee is, how do we bring this to the general public in the city? How do we bring these ideas about biking and not being so dependent on automobiles, about organic gardens and rethinking the lawn? We could have workshops, that would be great. And invite the whole public, maybe even have something at the Walt where there are all kinds of little workshops going on, rain barrel building, having rain barrels. By the way, I have 5 rain barrels. And also recycling, and maybe how to do a natural lawn, how to have a certified backyard wildlife habitat. We could have all those things at the Walt, some kind of, event. So I just want to bring this to the public so people will understand, because I don't believe in proselytizing or going to neighbors and telling them, why are you putting those, toxic chemicals on your lawn? I don't do that. And I don't believe in that. And proselytizing, you're pushing things on people, but we have to lay it out so people can find it. So that's what I'd like to see with this committee, that we can get this out into the community so people can maybe look, think about it, and within themselves come to the decision to change their behavior.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth. Jeffrey, do you want to go ahead?
Yes, I think just to continue that thought, but put my own 2 cents in with that. I think the idea of some bullet points that we need to do as a committee to focus on, such as natural gardening, such as recycling, such as I had mentioned before, the now age-old reduce, reuse, and recycle can be part of what we discuss as sustainability. Collecting rainwater is certainly a good idea, not necessarily something that everybody's going to do, but certainly if you get more people interested in that, if that's something that is would be good for them, and that they can then certainly not just save on water, but save on obviously cost of water as our bills have gone up. That's something that people are going to be considering as well. So that there's a number of things, and we're probably overflowing, so to speak, with different ideas that we can consider that comes under the large heading of sustainability, where I think it's true, most people don't necessarily think too much about it. It's been very unfortunate that people have not been recycling as much as they should have. And the fact that we're now forging ahead in the city with plans to have a different means of recycling is good. But we also have to find the means to instruct people, get them interested in it, and instruct them in the proper means to be able to do that. All these things are important, and I think we just have to organize and set up a certain structure as to which things we want to cover and how we can distribute information to the community and encourage and promote these things.
Okay, thank you, Jeffrey. Expectations. Who'd like to go next?
I can jump in. Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
All right, why don't we go with
Sorry,
Mandy
Jackie.
and then Jackie? Mandy, go ahead.
I really appreciate all the ideas that people have already brought up, and I think those are all great. I'm really hoping that we can focus on climate change related issues. I think sometimes when we talk about sustainability, the discussion can kind of revolve around recycling, and recycling is really important, and we should definitely work on that. But it's kind of like Ginger was saying, sometimes the easiest thing to focus on, and climate change solutions are often the hardest to actually accomplish. So I think efforts to encourage renewable energy, I can put in the chat. I've been exploring a group called Power Clean Future Ohio. And I don't know, Mayor Brennan, if you've heard of them before, but they partner with cities and try to help cities set goals and encourage renewable energy businesses and the adoption of like solar panels and houses and things like that. And I think those can be really exciting things that individual people can't necessarily accomplish on their own. But as a city, we can kind of promote that sort of thing for everybody in the city. So I'm hoping we can do that sort of thing.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mandy. Jackie.
I think that we can get really not bogged down, but certainly there's a lot to go over and talk about as far as sustainability. And I guess what I would want as an expectation is that we talk about the things that we want to do, but we focus on a few for this year and next year and the year after that, because I don't think that any of the things that we talked about are easy. Even the recycling is not easy. So my expectation would be that we provide a multi-step plan on being able to address some maybe 2 or 3 things that we can put a lot of energy in so that we can actually get something done. And one of the key parts of that would be education on some of these things.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Jackie.
May I have
John.
the floor for a moment? at a
Sure.
time?
Okay, go ahead, John.
Just kind of play off of what people have been saying. Education, yeah, it's important. And connecting with people who don't necessarily think the way we do or think about it enough. We do have, some good resources we can use. We have the city website and we have the magazine. So I think just want to make sure we take full advantage of those in the future.
Okay, thank you, John.
May I
Josh.
have a word? Oh, sorry.
Well, we'll go with Josh and then we'll go to you, Jim. How's that sound?
Okay, sure.
Go ahead, Josh.
All right, so I just really quickly, I was thinking, while I think there's a lot of stuff going on in our region, and I've just been following a few things that are happening locally, and so I was just thinking if we're looking inward at what's going on with us in our neighborhoods, in our city here, and then also maybe to look outward to see what's going on in our region, just because there may be sources of support there, and we don't necessarily have to invent things from scratch, and so we might be able to be a part of a greater initiative and lend ourselves to that too. Just a thought there. And then another thought was, I think there's opportunities here for collective projects, like we're working together collectively. But also I'm sure that whatever we do will drum up interest where individuals might have initiatives that they want to start that might be an individual initiative, like, oh, I really want to do this one particular thing that's really specific to me, and like maybe my one neighbor, like, great, I think we should support those things, maybe not invest like all of our time into like little initiatives, but there might be a space for some of each, like collectively working together while also like encouraging individuals to have those things that they're really, if someone's really into recycling and someone else is really into like water protection and someone else is into like agriculture, whatever, like supporting all of these people and encouraging them. So finding ways to encourage both individuals initiatives and then also coming together collectively to maybe do something larger.
Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you, Josh. Jim.
One of the bits of my background that I didn't mention was several stints in corporate management. And I have a great concern with this committee and committees in general, that by choosing a huge subject like sustainability, that we try to do everything and end up accomplishing nothing. So I would like us to think in terms of serially rather than doing everything on the multiple fronts all at the same time. We've talked about recycling, or I have, because the mayor came up with a very specific proposal to increase the city's rate of recycling. It's specific, it's something that could be done, I think, in the fairly short term. And I don't mean by that a year. I really think in terms of days. Most people insist on thinking in terms of months. So I would suggest that we consider some very specific proposals to do one after the other with a view towards being able to measure progress. Recycling is appealing because we can say, well, the number of tons of recyclables that we produce is increased from whatever they are 2 to 4. That's an increase. I like measurement, I like numbers, and I think it's very important to give our work credibility. Once we have a recycling program in effect, then I think we can go on to point 2. I also think we have to bear in mind that we are University Heights, which is basically a pretty small dot on the map. We hardly ever make it to the local weather forecast. Cleveland Heights, Shaker, nobody was going to tell us what's the temperature in University Heights. We're too small. So I think that that some of the things that we would all like to do, and I'm talking about the use of the automobile, for example. I have no idea how many cars passing through University Heights in a given day belong to people who live here. But I think a lot of people are driving down Cedar Road and they're going from Cleveland Heights to Beechwood, and they don't even realize that they went through University Heights because there's no sign that said so. The same could be true of Warrensville Center Road or Green Road or Meadowbrook and so on and so forth. My point is that I think we need to identify some specific things that we can measure, focus our attention on that one thing, accomplish it, publicize it, and move on to the next. That will give us both a sense of accomplishment, but also a claim to credibility. We set out to do this, we accomplished that, and here are the numbers to show it.
Okay, all right, thank you, Jim. Chris, I saw you put something in the chat. Would you like to elaborate on what you posted?
Yeah, it seems as though we're sort of talking about two major categories. One is what individuals or groups of individuals could do, and the other is what the city could do. And I was just wondering, would it make sense to break it out in that broad category and have measurables and priorities in those areas, those two specific areas?
It seems like one possibility, because there are things that we could be working on as that are towards goals that the city might like to, that we might want to have the city implement. And then there are things that we could be advocating for that are things that we all do individually and would encourage our neighbors in the community to do
Right.
themselves, better practices, more sustainable practices. I mean, a lot of what I'm hearing here, and I would agree, is that that there is that it starts with us. It starts with us locally, and if all localities, were to take the view of engaging in sustainable practices, then as a group we would all just be doing it. And it is something that there is some top-down thinking about, that things that the federal government does. There are things that the state can do, but when you get down to it, the day-to-day of governance happens locally. So if we're doing things locally, and if we're encouraging things locally, and if we're having our zoning and our ordinances reflect things that are mindful of sustainability and things that are that are environmentally thoughtful and so on, then it may be that we're not saving the planet right here in University Heights, but we're doing what we can right here in our own yards. And if others are doing the same thing, then we're all doing the right thing. We're changing our mindset and moving forward in that way. So I think some of that are things that we can do just by promoting awareness, and some of those things are things that we would do perhaps legislatively or administratively or even just operationally. Okay. So, Chris, I think that's a good idea, but we can get back to that, because it may be that's how we divide things up, or there may be another approach. I mean, Jim's idea about serially working, saying, okay, we're going to focus on this issue here, we're going to make a measurable accomplishment here, and then we'll look at the next thing on the list. And that's something else we can be doing too, is devising what we want a list to look like.
I would actually see incorporating both of those strategies possibly is priorities based on two broad categories.
Okay.
I see his point.
What's the low-hanging fruit other than recycling?
Well,
where can we get an easy win other than recycling?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, sometimes when I look at things that we can do, and I don't mean just in sustainability, I mean in any organization, whether it's government or what have you, is that there are, I tend to take goals and put them into 4 different categories. There are the things that are low effort and high impact. So those are things that you want to do first, kind of get a win, get some momentum, be able to say, hey, you know, we've accomplished something. It wasn't that hard, and we're making a big difference. And isn't that something? So we identified that thing. That's one of the first things we want to work on. Then there are things that take a lot of effort, but then have a big payoff after a lot of effort. And like, you know, going through our zoning and coming up with things that are sustainable. There are lots of things. We're going to be doing a zoning review in the city anyway this year. And there's lots of things to be considered, but one of them ought to be sustainability. And that's going to take some time, but promoting the awareness of what we would want to be doing to write sustainability into our zoning, that's a long-term thing that will have, you know, good long-term effects. Then the other two buckets, if you will, those two areas that are a little bit dicey are the things that take a lot of effort but have limited impact, and that doesn't necessarily mean they aren't worthwhile, but that's sometimes stuff that you can really get stuck in the weeds with. You know, you can just work and work and work, and you really have no appreciable accomplishment. And sometimes it's not that isn't worthy, but when you're prioritizing, you don't necessarily want to, you know, get stuck in that. And then there are the things that don't take much effort but don't really matter. And most of the time, you don't really want to spend too much time on those things either. So it may be that one of the things that we'll want to do is kind of brainstorm some things that we want to do, and then from there, think of them in terms of what items don't take too much effort but would have a big impact, and then the things probably that take a lot of effort but also have a big impact, so they're worth that effort. But maybe first what we want to do is brainstorm some of the things we want to do. Some of those things have come up, but maybe we just shout them out and write them down. How's that sound? Okay. Who'd like to begin with that? What's a goal you'd like to see us accomplish at the city or here in the community?
Recycling.
Recycling improvement.
Yeah.
Okay.
Reduce, reuse, and recycling.
Okay.
Reduce, reuse.
May I suggest we put a number on that, Jackie? Increase the amount of recycling by a factor of 3 within 6 months?
I don't know what I don't know what our rate is at this point. I know it's pretty low, so doing anything would be probably an improvement. So, you know, Mayor, do you have any data that we can assign to that would indicate in them?
Yes, we do. The solid waste district annually comes out with a report with regard to how we're doing with composting and how we're doing with recycling, and you know, they're able to tell us as a percentage, you know, how we're doing, and we're the third worst in the county. Outside of Cleveland. Cleveland hardly counts because they don't even really have a recycling contractor. They just lost their most recent one. Richmond and East Cleveland do worse than we do, and Richmond Heights, it should be pointed out, doesn't do recycling pickup anymore. So that's one of the reasons why they're so low. And then we're kind of in a tie for third worst with Parma Heights and a couple other places. Yeah, so there is room to do better. We also would have data, I don't have it right here in front of me, but we would have data annually for how many tons we actually recycle, because that's kept track of. Our recycling processor lets us know how many tons they process annually. So if we're able to increase that, we know that we are recycling more based upon, you know, what we're delivering to Kimball.
So are we talking about, I'm sorry, how much is actually recycled as opposed to the tonnage we give them?
Well, that's a little bit different because, you know, they're charging us for the tonnage of what they process. If they get a lot of contaminated recycling, you know, if they get a lot of things that aren't even really recyclable, but they're just, you know, stuffed into the into the recycling stream, then you know, we get charged for the weight and the fee of processing that stuff, even if that stuff ends up being landfilled. So yeah, it's not a perfect scale, but if we are able to promote recycling and more recycling is processed, then that is one measure, if not a perfect measure.
I would say that the fact that the recycling program is being changed in University Heights per the information that you supplied, Mayor, that we should first capitalize upon that and build upon that and do what we can as a committee to help to promote that, work with that, have that grow. And part of that is in teaching the community how to properly recycle. And I think that's been part of the problem too, with how the items that can actually be recycled has changed over the years. And I've recycled for the longest time, but I find myself, oh no, I can't put this in there anymore because this no longer is able to be recycled. And it used to be, as for plastics, you looked at numbers, and now that's not necessarily the case. So we have to understand, based on what the county is telling us that can be recycled, unless there's something else that we're doing that's different from what the county is saying, that I don't know. You would have to tell us about that. And perhaps also, maybe not everybody on the committee is aware about the report that you made. Not everybody necessarily got that email.
Okay, all right. Well, why don't I discuss that just a little bit? The report that you're referring to is a narrative that accompanied my budget proposal for 2022. And in that budget proposal is I have placed in the city's budget that's now been submitted to City Council a line item for purchasing recycling carts, so that we can switch from bagged recycling to loose recycling, which would be a great improvement here in University Heights. Currently, I think we're all aware, you either put your recyclables in a blue bag or a clear bag. Your cardboard should be flattened and tied if it isn't actually placed into a bag. But once the bagged recycling makes it to the MRF, where the materials are sorted, Kimball runs it, and it's in Twinsburg. And what they do is they tear open those plastic bags and they dump the contents onto a conveyor belt for sorting, and then the plastic bags are thrown away. So, in a community with 4,200 and some odd single family and two family homes, if you figure everybody's putting out one blue bag a week, I put out 3 today. But if you put out 1, that's if everybody puts out 1, that's 4,000 blue bags that get ripped open and thrown away every week in University Heights, based upon how we recycle, which is, counterintuitive and counterproductive to what we're trying to do. I mean, we want our recyclables to be recycled, and we also, in order to do that, to have to place them in a vessel which is routinely thrown away is discouraging. We also have a blue container at City Hall where people can bring their cardboard if they don't want to flatten and tie it. Every weekend, it's just overflowing. We don't have the capacity there to handle that the way we ought. It's a testament to how people want to do the right thing. People want to have their cardboard recycled, and cardboard is one of those things that is recyclable and is valuable. It is true that the current recycling contract, the city actually has to pay to recycle. It used to be that we were paid for recycling. That changed under the China's national sword policy, but recycling markets have since rebounded. And though we are still under a contract where we pay to recycle, Chagrin Falls just negotiated a recycling contract where they're paid again. And so, that corner is starting to turn, but we actually pay a 50% premium for having our recycling handled in blue bags versus loose recycling. So the key to being able to renegotiate what we do and to recycle better is to get rid of the blue bags and find a way to loose recycle. So I've made a proposal for how we can do it here in the city. That is going to be part of the budget discussions that City Council has, and I'm hopeful that City Council approves going ahead with that. But City Council's Finance Committee will meet on that, and we'll see what happens.
Can you ask a question about your proposal, Mayor?
Sure. Yes, Jim.
I have noticed that people engage in a number of different practices with regard to their trash. And I'm talking about, some of us put trash in barrels. I'm talking about trash and recycling bags. We put them in barrels that are then emptied into the backyard dumpsters, the little kubotas. Other people, and I'm talking about someone right across the street from me, just put out the bags on the collection day. There's no barrel involved. But in no case am I aware of the city supplying any containers. So my question is, why must the city buy these curbside recycling bins? They're fairly expensive. I mean, what's expensive? I don't know. But my point is, if we have to go to the city council and depend on them to authorize a capital expenditure, then I should be so lucky as to still be alive when the first one meets the street. Sorry, Michelle. I'm wondering, why don't we negotiate a reduced cost? Home Depot, you can't buy them in stores, you can order them. They're deliverable in the first week of February. I looked it up. Why don't we tell people, this is the story, folks. Buy a container, we'll pick it up. If you don't, then we're right where we are now, because as we also know, with the beloved kubotas, not all of the blue bags get put in the little barrels in front. If they won't fit, they go in the back and they're landfill. I have no idea what percentage that is. So my first point is, I think we need to look at this from a point of view of what can we do quickly, and getting people to provide their own containers is what we do now. I don't really see why we need to change that practice for the recycling. And the second point I would make is that, although I've advocated right here that we start with the recycling, I also think that we need to focus on the profusion of plastic. It is a tremendous global problem. It never goes away. And I'm talking about stuff like the clamshell containers. Everything you buy now, cupcakes, clamshell container, lettuce comes in a plastic box. Where did this happen? I mean, I don't know how it happens. We have had as government entities, we have yet to ban single-use, bags at grocery stores. But I would like to see us focus on, as a part of the recycling issue, on the absolute reduction of plastic that we're introducing into the system. If nothing else, tell people, don't take these little clamshell things. Insist on a string bag, or insist on a paper box. As a big cupcake man myself, I can tell you that Whole Foods will put your cupcake in a paper box instead of the bloody clamshell. And the paper box presumably can turn into a Amazon box when I'm ordering God knows what, a new pair of socks.
I don't want to be the poo-pooer here, but I mean, for the purpose of organization, we're getting way too far into the weeds. I mean, there's a lot of things that have to do with recycling, for example. I mean, for example, paper shouldn't get wet. cardboard should not get wet. That's what makes it difficult to recycle. When we have recycling that gets mixed together and there's an anvil in with cans, there's a big problem. MRFs only take things that they actually can recycle. So those little numbers don't mean a thing. So all of that is involved in education that I don't know that I think we should get into right now. But if, you know, that problem in itself is wide and deep, and I don't want to problem solve it right now. Because there are other things, even though I'm the one who brought up recycling, there are other people that brought up issues that first of all, I hadn't even thought about. I mean, the whole rain barrel issue is something that you know could be done. It's quick. It's an impact that we could have in a quick way. I'm not sure. So I guess I want to suggest that we've put out some ideas already. Why can't we just put that together as a list, talk together, look at it over the next week or whenever we're going to meet, and then prioritize and sort of, I like Chris's idea of dividing things into things that individuals can do and things that government can do. And then let's move from there.
Okay, thank you, Jackie. And I did commit a bit of a brainstorming sin because I went from brainstorming to providing some information based on something Jeffrey had brought up, which I thought was important to clarify, but then we got away from the brainstorming. So you're right, Jackie, we should get back to making the list of things that we want to do. But before I do that, I see Ginger's raised her hand. I saw Elizabeth raised her hand. So I'll start with Ginger. Ginger, you have the floor.
Okay, one idea that may or may not be that hard to do, increase the amount of native plants planted on city-owned properties by 62.8% over the course of 9 months and 2 days.
That's specific.
That was very specific.
Well, that's what the expectation is, so. That was for you, Jim.
Okay. All right. I saw Elizabeth raise her hand. Mandy's got it up too, but we'll go with Elizabeth next.
Okay, I agree with Jackie and Chris on both issues of governmental and then what we can do as a group. But what I'm hearing tonight is a lot of people are talking about recycling. That seems to be a main theme. And that's right on the table in the email you sent of what your budget plans are and focusing on the people in the city and getting those carts in, you know, if we can possibly do that. Of course, I've been begging for that for the decades I've lived in this city. I had a cart in San Francisco in 1990. So if that tells you anything, it's just been, well, I just think recycling has been ridiculous here. But it's ridiculous since obviously China stopped taking all of our recycling, which I actually understand that they don't want our junk. And what I see the problem is locally, I can see why we have such a bad rate down at Kimball in Twinsburg of recycling and proper recycling and them throwing it out. People don't understand what they can recycle now. They absolutely do not understand. And that's reinforced through my neighbors and what I hear all the time. They do not understand what can be recycled. They don't get it. We would have to be very, very specific. You can't just say jugs. You can't just say jars. It's not enough. People are still recycling things that are going to be thrown out, and then the whole bag is considered contaminated.
Right.
So we really need to educate people. And if I think doing things serially, topics in the committee might be a good idea. And also for all of us doing the things serially, if we do that, like focus on recycling first, or let's just say hypothetically, I'm not trying to run anything, but let's just say we do that hypothetically, or focus on rain barrels, or focus on bicycling, or focus on electric cars. But by doing these things, it also to me, it's a very healthy thing for all of us working together and keeps us inspired to stay on this committee, is to nudge ourselves into other areas that we weren't really interested in before. I'm not I don't do bicycle. I'm unable to do that, but I'm very interested in it, and it would be good to focus on that at one point very deeply. So I really like the serial aspect. So anyway, I'm really hearing tonight that people are talking about recycling. So my thought is maybe we should dig into that first.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Elizabeth. Mandy.
Yes, so clearly people do really care about recycling. And if there's like an easy way for us to kick that off, it does seem like a good idea. Although it seems like it's been a lot of talking about it in the city, from what I understand. And so it might be one of those high effort, low payoff things. But in terms of other things that we could focus on, these are some ideas that I got from that Power a Clean Future Ohio group that other cities are doing around us, like in Lakewood and Shaker Heights and even Cleveland Heights. Things like retrofitting our streetlights to LEDs, providing more EV charging stations throughout the city, switching the city's fleet over to electric vehicles over time, adding solar panels to buildings, government buildings, investing in solar in the community. So kind of trying to lure those businesses to be here and provide energy for us. And those are obviously much more difficult things to do and more long-term things, but with climate change being the huge emergency that it is, I think those should be priorities. And one fairly easy thing to do, I guess, would just be declare climate change an emergency, which a lot of cities have done. So that wouldn't be necessarily difficult, but it would maybe be meaningful to our community.
Yeah, just to piggyback off of Mandy there, I do think that like one of my sort of hopes, just expectations generally for the city, is that we use the budget as much as judiciously as possible to support like green initiatives. And I have like, I don't know if you have the data on this or who would possibly have the data on this, but like how much energy the city itself uses and how it can like reduce that, the water usage in that same vein. It's like, reducing what we can control within our city, within our public buildings is something that I think I hope we can focus on, if not immediately, in like the coming weeks and months.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Michael. Mandy, your hand is still up. Did you have something else, or did?
No, I didn't. Sorry about that.
That's great. Okay, thanks, Josh.
Yeah, so just to echo other folks, like it sounds like there's an opportunity for us to all gain capacity working together and perhaps learn a little bit more about what it means to work together on a project. It seems like there's some opportunities here that are already there. Just to add to what's been said, perhaps local sustainable agriculture could be something that's on the list of things to talk about at some point in the future. And I was just thinking about along the lines of capacity building, like I'm totally on board with a lot of the stuff we're talking about in terms of carbon emissions, ecological landscaping, all of this. I think there's education that needs to take place for a lot of people. Like it took me a while to sort of learn about some of these things. And I think one of the things that might be desirable is to consider like a change in culture almost that we might be working towards, in terms of like people obviously understanding the importance of green initiatives, the importance of recycling, the importance of like local sustainability, all of this, understanding that, but also it becoming like a regular element of like our daily lives and something that we perhaps celebrate and do together. And that's like a long-term sort of a thing, right? Something that will take place over the course of years of people working together, and it's something that we identify with collectively, perhaps. But I was just thinking about, like, how can we support the development of that sort of way of thinking on the level of culture within our sort of small little space. But anyway, I just wanted to put that out there too.
Okay, thank you. Jeffrey.
I had wanted to mention, again, I just said it in passing before, about Rust Belt riders. And I had put something in the notes about that. They've been working with communities and individuals about composting. Not everyone is going to have the interest in doing any composting themselves. Not everybody is doing a garden. It's something that we can talk about, and there are people, say, Friends of the Wald, who are doing certain things now that could certainly be part of our talks about sustainability. But very specifically here with composting, here's an organization, Rust Belt Riders, that you can reduce the amount of trash that you have of food waste, and you take that and you drop it off to places in the area. Specifically right now, the Nature Center at Shaker Lakes has a number of cans from Rust Belt Riders that you can drop off food waste. Also in South Euclid at Bexley Park, they have I think 3 cans there now, not as many as the Nature Center, but a lot of that is a determination with Rust Belt Riders, certainly, and I have not spoken with them, but I have to believe it's a matter of discussion with them, and the point that it is determined where things can be dropped off, and that's going to reduce the amount of food waste that you would have, and it means that there's less trash that winds up being picked up by the city. Now, the caveat to this is there is a cost. It's not, in this case, it's not to the city, but it's to the individuals who are contributing to that, who are dropping off the scraps. That can either be done collectively. There's a cost per month that you sign up for. It's a very low cost. And I would, that can be done, but also there are people who are doing that with Rust Belt Riders individually. And I have seen these buckets that Rust Belt Riders supplies, and then they will come around and pick the scraps up from the container on a regular basis. I would propose that it's something that could be done, and I'm thinking in terms just like South Euclid has done at Bexley Park. Why not University Heights have that done at the Walt, where they have the containers there, people can drop off a scrap, and it's something that we could encourage them doing. The end result, of course, is that's less waste for the city to pick up, but it's also less that has to be considered that is not going into the trash.
Okay, no, thank you. That is something that I think we ought to take a look at. And you know, I'm only vaguely aware of what South Euclid is doing, and I know that the Rust Belt Riders has a subscription plan where you can leave your can. They sell you a can or they rent you a can, and you put it out and they pick it up, and then that's a subscription based thing that people are doing. But I have not myself explored what they're doing for municipalities, like what South Euclid might be doing, and I think that bears some a look. I happen to compost in my own backyard, but lots of people don't do that or don't want to do that. They may not
Right.
want that bin around the house or around their yard, but they may want to do exactly this sort of thing where they know it's being processed.
We've been doing that now for a while, where we've got some large jars that we will put our food waste in, and then we'll drop it off. Usually we've dropped it off at the Nature Center at Shaker Lakes, but occasionally we'll drop it over at Bexley Park in South Euclid. I would love to be able to drop it off at the Walt.
I would love that.
Well, that may be something we should look into.
Yeah.
We still have a council person here. Brian, what do you think of that? You're muted, Brian.
Yeah, sorry, I was meant to take my hand down, but I clapped. I'm clapping and raising my hands, so I'm all about this. So this is something I had already looked into a bit, and I already have a contact over at Rust Belt Riders. It was just something I was exploring a bit while I was running for council. So I was talking with their founder, and he gave me list of somebody who her name Zoe over there, but she has been working with cities on partnering with them, and I've been hearing like every month they're putting in another collection site in another city, and I thought that an ideal place to put that would be that back parking lot at the Walt. So I had been meaning to write them, but if you wouldn't mind, Mayor, I could go ahead and write them, copy you on it, and see if we could get something scheduled with them.
Yeah, that sounds like a fine idea.
Okay, cool.
All right, great. Thank you, Brian.
I'll get that sent off.
All right, thanks.
Mayor, I'm sorry, I can't raise my hand. I don't have it on my phone, but in addition to that, this is a complaint for a half a second. I had a bucket for Rust Belt Riders, and the garbage men took it.
Oh.
Yeah. So, and I'm not saying that to say, chastise the service people. I did get a different bucket, put it on the other side of my garage, wrote all over it, do not take. But one of the things that it made me think about is how much do the service people know about that kind of thing? And are there things that they think would be things that could be more sustainable, things that are more reduce, reuse, and recycle? Because they deal with waste all the time and may have some idea about that. So I don't need my can back, but I wonder if that has happened to other people. And I think that they should know about that service that is being provided, and not taking anyone else's can.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry to hear that happen. That was the first I was aware of anybody losing a Rust Belt Riders can to our service employees who I'm sure were just trying to be thorough and good faith and weren't trying to thwart your efforts here on purpose. Yeah, no, it seems like that would be worthy of a memo where with a picture of what these cans look like, and just anything that says Rust Belt Riders on it, they should just leave alone. That's a subscription service, and so on. So
but really the point though that I was trying to make is that maybe there are people in your service department that might have ideas about this, that might have ideas about recycling or whatever. When people are used to dealing with this kind of thing, they have ideas about it. When my organization wants to do something different, all the directors go back to each other and say to their staff and say, hey, this is going to happen. Do you have any suggestions about it? Do you have an opinion about it? Do you think we should do this, that, or the other? And that might be something that the service department might want to get behind. I don't know.
Okay. Okay. All right. That may be. I'll write that down. Okay. All right.
I'd like to mention something, if that's
Yes.
okay.
Go ahead.
By doing the Rust Belt bins, let's say having them at the wall, for people to see that, a lot of the public comes to the wall, takes their children to the playground, take their children to the playground. They can look at people throwing, orange peels and things like that into this bin, and it might inspire them to get their own composter bin in their backyard and understand how easy it is. And unfortunately, though, when they're looking at that, they can't see the gold that comes out of the bottom of that composter once it heats up and decompresses, where you have wonderful, wonderful compost to put in your yard and just keep your whole yard sustainable. But I'm thinking that's one way to show the public with these Rust Belt bins that, hey, this is something we could actually do at home pretty easily.
Okay. Very good. Very good. As I'm compiling kind of a list of things here, anything else anybody wants to bring up that they would like to have on the list? All right, Josh.
Yeah, so a lot of what folks were saying was getting some things going in my mind. This discussion of Rust Belt Riders and also just Zoe from Rust Belt Riders. I met her at a farmer's market because she represents Rust Belt, and they came to a farmer's market, and it just reminded me of, oh yeah, the farmer's market idea, maybe for like years down the line, or I don't know how long that away from now, that's a possibility, but it connected to some of the things that we've been talking about with some folks is having a farmer's market in University Heights, perhaps at the Walt. I know that Odd Dog Coffee already does stuff there, and I've spoken with them, and they're all about that stuff as well. And anyway, that was an idea and a thought. And then I heard folks talking about the Walt and the ecological projects there, and it reminded me of Ecological Heights. I think that should maybe be on the list as like a connection to that project specifically, because
Friends of the Walt is actually part of Ecological Heights.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So that group that goes there and takes care of, like, they plant native plants, they remove anything that is invasive, and it's something that people can volunteer to and can come and be involved in. And it also got me think about events that might take place at the Walt. So for example, if people are seeing folks bringing compost to like a bin or something close to there, we might do something like sponsor building a compost bin day or something like that, where people just bring like one of my compost bins in my backyard is a trash can that I just drilled a whole bunch of holes in. And so that could be something that is an event that people can take part in and bring their own, bins, and then drill a bunch of holes in them and then bring them home. Lots of ideas. I'm done.
Yeah, I agree with that. It would be, I know that April's not that far away, but Earth Day and having people come to an event at the Walt where people would learn how to recycle or learn how to do composting. Cuyahoga Recycles teaches a 101 class on that. And there are lots of resources that we could avail ourselves of that could participate in some kind of event that at the Walt. That would be great. That would be really fun.
Okay. Yeah, that's an idea, and people love having the people love finding things that we can do at the park, and people often come to the park and they discover something that's happening there, and then they become part of it. So Earth Day this year is Friday, April 22nd. So Friday's not a bad day. We could do something that kind of, starts in maybe the mid to late afternoon and kind of straddles into the evening. So you catch people, as you see them. That's a thought. Okay.
Hickory Lakes Nature Center and Donebrook Watershed Partnership, they both do rain barrel demos, workshops. Could
Yes.
maybe include some of that.
Yes, and the Cuyahoga Soil and Conservation District has done rain barrel workshops in University Heights and has done them also even during the pandemic, has had rain barrel pickup that we did one in University Heights since the pandemic began. But pre-pandemic, well, I have 2 rain barrels myself, and I acquired them both through this workshop. One workshop was kind of going over, and they had the tools there, and then you would kind of build your own rain barrel right in the service garage at University Heights. We had I'm blanking on her name, but we had a representative who does the community outreach, who helps organize these events, and she was there teaching people how to build their rain barrel. And then within the pandemic, what they did was they had the barrels, and instead of having drills and the drill bit for boring the hole into the barrel, they actually had a goodie bag of the drill bit that drills the hole and the spigot and some instructions for how to thread that and put that into your barrel. And so point is, I got 2, one from one workshop, one from the other, and I actually like the second one better, the one that I built myself at home, based on the parts they gave us. But that is something that we could do again, and you know, we can promote more and more of that. I think people are increasingly being turned on to the idea of collecting their rainwater and being able to use it. And it just so happens, it's a paperwork thing I need to go take care of. But if you have 50% or more of your water diverted from the storm sewers into your barrels, you can qualify for a tax credit with the county. And I need to go do that paperwork, but I know that
Tax credit? I thought it was
it's a billing credit. It's a billing credit.
Yeah.
But there is
Jeff Engelbrecht and I
financial
were talking
benefit
about that
to
earlier.
it to encourage that. Thank you, Brian.
Yeah.
And it's a credit, I think, on your sewer bill. Isn't that what it is?
Yes, it is. It's a credit on your sewer bill. It's small.
It's small.
And you do have to take pictures of all your rain barrels and also draw a little when you first apply, and you draw, make a little map of where the rain barrels are.
Mm-hmm. Right, but point being that if you're going to do this anyway, you might as well avail yourself then of that additional credit. Yeah, thank you, Brian. You put it in the chat, the link from with NEORSD.
Yeah, Jeff and I just happened to be talking about it earlier. So
okay, and just so happens that over 50% of my roofing is now covered between my 2 rain barrels. I just need to do that paperwork and fill that out and take my pictures like Elizabeth was saying. So, okay. All right, well, I know we've been here for 90 minutes already, so I want to be respectful of people's time. We heard a lot of great ideas. What we could do is, we've got a list of things. Maybe what we do is we circulate that list via email. And if there are things that people want to add, I saw Ginger put in the chat that there'll be 10 more things she thinks of after we conclude. And I'm sure we all will have things that we think of. So maybe what we do is tomorrow I would have my assistant kind of distribute a list. That's Ben Schaefer. So Ben will send you all an email with a draft list, and maybe we can add a few things to that, and then have another meeting where we go over that list and then do the prioritizing and set some goals. How does that sound?
That sounds great.
Okay, very good. And then we should probably try to, set up a time where we can meet again. Maybe we can try to figure that out now if you have calendars handy, and then we can kind of keep the momentum going.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so one week from today, we have a finance committee meeting at 7 o'clock. That's city council and everybody. So so next Wednesday is not good, but and next Tuesday is a council meeting. I'm thinking maybe the week of the 24th.
Okay.
Should we do Wednesday again?
Well, I've got something on Wednesday night myself, but how do people look on Tuesday, the 25th?
That's good.
Good.
Me.
Fine.
Okay. All right. Well,
I would have to be late, but
Oh.
we could make it.
okay. All right. Well, why don't we, if that's all right with you, Brian, then why don't we say Tuesday, the 25th at 7? I mean, you'll be late or late or just,
I have a board meeting for another organization from 6 to 7:30, but I could jump on after that.
okay. Okay. All right. Is 25th at 7 then otherwise good? Because obviously we've been at this for 90 minutes, so you would still catch the bulk of the meeting if we did a
Yep.
yeah. Okay. And you're all right with that if you come in a half hour late?
Yeah, I'm fine. If that works for a majority of people, then do it.
Okay, great. All right, well then let's plan on Tuesday, the 25th at 7. We'll circulate some lists and we'll take more suggestions. Ben will compile them and then we'll get those out to everybody, before the 25th so that we can then discuss some prioritizing and goal setting based upon what's on the lists.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good.
Any parting comments, parting thoughts, anything anybody would like to say at this point before we adjourn?
Just thank you.
I think everybody made some great points, and I'm glad to have participated, and I look forward to continuing.
All right, great, thanks.
Same.
All right, well,
you,
I'm
everyone.
really heartened by everybody taking the time to be here this evening. I think we covered a lot of good things and we're just getting started. So good things coming up, good things ahead. All right, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor.
Have a good night.
You too.
Good night.
Good night.